from the committees, I see another committee, I see a subcommittee coming up with several resolutions for one committee to take to the government, because again, as you asked the question, it's maybe 2,000 things that we can think of that we know we're not going to get. So let's think of the top priority areas that we would like to see, whether it's from families that we know of historically who had their land taken and still have family members alive. Those people should be on that committee. And then from those regional committees, we come together and think of, I guess, maybe the top 5 reparations and present that. Because again, we'll be there for another 10 years just trying to figure out where to start. So we have to kind of start with the committees and then lead to one final recommendation that we're going to move together as a unit.
And we really don't have to reinvent the wheel. At Morris College, we had a gentleman from, I think it was either Jamaica or Barbados. He came and he talked about the CARICOM nations, the Caribbean, West Indian nations, suing Britain for reparations. And he had a book, and it is absolutely wonderful the way they organized it. And it's really based around, they're suing for reparations for slave trade and slavery first. And what they did was, they said that it is so comprehensive, their view, how to get, they had data like, it's not a coincidence that African people who came to the Americas, Caribbean, have such high rates of high blood pressure, and all kinds of diseases of those sorts. And they've attached a healthcare piece to reparations, that the government should be looking to provide a certain level of health care for the former slaves. And it's a really, I can't think of the gentleman's name now, but you need to check out how the West Indian Islands are dealing with, reparations to Britain. It is a wonderful, wonderful piece of work that they've done. So it would be a great model to do that. Yes. Before I just want to say one thing before. I want you to know that when you move forward, there are going to be people who are going to come after you who are going to be haters, because they don't know about what we're trying to do here. But what I want to say to you, don't let anyone tell you that, we've solved the problem of the squatters. I know we got to. Don't let anyone tell you, they didn't pay their taxes. No, they did pay their taxes. They paid their taxes for nearly 100 years without any problem. What happened was, if you go, you know where Fulton Avenue is, right? Where does Fulton Avenue end up at? At the bridge. At the Pelham Bridge. So what happened was that the Mount Vernonites, planning for this industrial boom and the oil thing, they built a brand new road from Center City called Fulton Avenue, all the way to the bridge. And remember now, the Turner's home was right at the corner where Clemens Diner was. So they got taxed at the same rate as American Oil. They couldn't pay them. They were not industrialists. They were just little farmers. So that's what put them in the arrears. The assessment on Fulton Avenue put them in the arrears. But for 100 years, they paid their taxes faithfully. So this was really designed, it was an unfair tax on them. That Petrillo, construction, all those folks out here, all these oil companies, construction companies, and coal companies, they paid their share of the road because it would benefit their business. Their trucks and everything would roll on those roads. But the Turners got caught in that, and they couldn't pay. That's when they went to arrears. So don't let anyone tell you that they were non-taxable. No, they paid their taxes. But there was this regressive tax that was designed for the corporation. When they built Fulton Avenue.
I want to bring back the conversation because the title of the event today was Reparations to Mount Vernon. And we did compare and contrast about the case for reparations. We need to talk about Mount Vernon as well. I just looked up on the short sale website on Zillow, and they did a short sale is when you can't make your foreclosure payment, you can't make your mortgage payment, and they're going to foreclose on you, and so you sell your house for less than it's worth, and you're left with having to pay the difference to the bank, right? 10550, just 10550, that zip code has 150 short sales. Yes, sir. 150 short sales. When Mr. Clark was talking about subprime mortgages, Mount Vernon has 1/3 of the pre-foreclosures for the county of Westchester. 1/3 for a population of 70,000 with 20,000 plus households. 1/3. Yonkers has 1/3 with 200,000 people. The rest of the county has the rest. There are reparations due here because people sold subprime mortgages to people and cashed people out at the top of their value of their properties and gave it to people who couldn't afford it, and then did these short sales. And there's a real estate guy that I was listening to at one of the city council meetings that Ms. Brewer made me go to, and he was testifying about how he was able to sell Mount Vernon's, and very proud of it, selling Mount Vernon short sales for very cheap because of how, right? So what we're talking about here is today's information. I would like to read to you a reparation proposal in Dr. Sproul's 4th grade book. And I'm not sure he read it that way or thought of it at the time, but I think it's what you do for somebody whose family goes out of existence with our assistance, and we try to forget about it. This is the, I guess it's the epilogue in the children's book that is here. We propose to rename Edison Avenue along East Chester Creek, Benjamin Turner Boulevard. There are no living heirs of this local African-American settler. This honor will serve as partial restitution to the Turner estate for their loss. We hope this property will one day be added to the National Historic Site of St. Paul's Church and developed into an early American-themed educational project by the National Park Service. Is that still a thought?
That's still, I forgot I wrote it, that's great.
So here's a project in local history for the Turner Family Educational Park. Is helping our young people go to their elected officials and talk about renaming a boulevard in
Does everyone know what Edison Avenue is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right, it's the road between the creek and the church. Back there. It's right there, it's right down the street. Yeah. They named it Edison Avenue, of course, after Thomas, again.
Did he live in Mount Vernon? Did he live in Mount Vernon?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no.
Okay, so we have a proposal. Please take a look at the monthly President's Conference schedule that I just gave out to you. November 8th at Graham Elementary School, we're going to talk about the annual audit, the independent annual audit. We're doing it at Graham on a Saturday because historically we would have it as a 10-minute presentation at a board meeting, and we felt that we wanted as much of the community to be present and part of that process. Go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions, not in reference to the.
Sure. And then in December, we're going to have a school funding fairness effort. If you look on the schedule, that's for December 20th. I want you to look for March 14th. There are other dates coming up, but March 14th is going to be a public readers theater about Horton Hears a Who. And I'm going to try to get Senator Thompson and some of the other elected officials to read with the children at Grimes Elementary School. And it's not just a children's book, it's talking about what we have to do here, which is we have to stand up together. Okay? There's questions. I'm sorry, Mr. McDowell.
You guys did a fabulous job
Yes,
tonight. I
yes.
feel educated. I feel like this was nowhere near a waste of time.
Right.
That I'm leaving here elated and changed. Having never heard of the Turner family, having never heard of the things that you guys spoke about today, I feel like I'm so full, at this present moment. And as I'm looking up there, I see 3 generations of educated people
Yes.
coming from this city of Mount Vernon. My name is Omar McDowell. I'm the board trustee here in Mount Vernon.
Okay.
And as I see you guys sitting up there, and as a coalition relates to the story that you told in reference to the original settlers in Eastchester, you noted to the fact how they were integrated back then in the school and how the education was of high value, that whether you were black or whether you were white, you received that high level of education, and it was noted in that time, if I heard you correct. So my first question to you is, outside of the Turner family, were there other families that you can know to that had that type of presence within the Mount Vernon area? And I'm going to get somewhere while I'm asking that question.
Okay, yes, there's Nat and Hannah Franklin family. Nat Franklin was actually a slave also at one point, but he was also a Revolutionary War veteran. I mean, come on, it doesn't get huger than that. And that also helped create his stature locally, because he was respected as a Revolutionary War. That is the war that created the American civilization, or the American Empire, or the United States of America. And Nat and Hannah, their slave mistress, in her will, she gives them land, lots of it. But it's an interesting twist to that story, which I'll take me time to explain. I can't do it right now. But Nat and Hannah is a good piece, because Nat and Hannah are actually older than Rebecca and Ben. I think Nat died in 1827, Hannah 1834, and I think Sam Nelson buried Hannah Franklin. So, you know, but I'm dealing with that period of time. This is early America. You know, America's still a baby. We don't even know if it's going to survive until probably after the Civil War.
And I think that's a great platform, because as we're sitting here, this is fantastic, but this is only about 20 people in here. I think we should move to sharing this with the whole community, whether it be through churches, whether it be through the other schools, and having what do you call it in the auditorium? Not a forum. You have at the school. Assembly. An assembly at the school, so that we can educate, because that's one of the problems. Our children are not being educated in their history and where they come from. So when you hear about the time of slavery and the time of how you noted to the fact of how they did it in the North, because most people would think that in the North there wasn't slavery. You know, but I love how you noted to the fact how it was slavery, more on an economic and law-based slavery here in the North. So by teaching our young people coming to do an assembly and throughout the school, it helps to change, not just to change the name on the building, you know, which is great. But if we don't give them the information and give them the power to understand behind the name of the building, like most people didn't even know Longfellow. I learned that who Longfellow was, you know. But sharing that information beyond this setting, you know, I know Mr. Goodside had great intentions on why he wants to change the school district and he wants to move this thing forward. You've been working 30 years at this thing, but the community still has not been informed. We have to find ways to inform the community about this and get us stirred up and galvanized about what's been stolen from us, because that's why we're having the issues that we're having, because the community is not informed about who they are, where they came from, the power that they have inside them, and the people we came from that stood the test of time through all of what was taking place around them, yet they owned the property. Which is, as you said, in those times, is unheard of for a black man to own such property.
By the way, where they lived, that was like living in the heart of downtown. That was the Village Green. That's where everything was. It's like having property right near the mall. You know, it was right there. That property was right.
Is that we take this out into the community a little further. I know you had this one meeting for this, you know, but I believe this. I would invite you to my church. You know, I see 3 generations here, and I know Mr. Dorgan wasn't initially a part of the thing, but I see 3 generations here that can go out. We have a seasoned vet in here, and we have 2 young men that we need to present to the community and show this community that, guess what, this is what's been taken from you, and we need to go back and get it back. But it starts with educating ourselves. So I say thank you again for the lesson today. It's been food for my soul, and I want to encourage you guys to carry this on. Don't leave this here. Don't leave it with just naming the school. I'm in support of naming the school, you know, after the Turners. But I would suggest don't just leave it on the building, but that we take it into the community. And I would invite you to any organization that I'm a part of at this moment to share this information so that we can get stirred up, not just about the shootings that's taking place, about all the things that's in the news today about what's taking place against our people, but so that we can inform them and get ourselves stirred up so that we can go after the reformations that have not been given to us as a people yet, and that we can, take more part in what's taking place in our community so that we can change Mount Vernon and so forth and so on. So I thank you, and hopefully we can take this further.
I made the same mistake. That was your fault. That was your fault.
And we know how kids love to have internet stories. We know they know about Frederick Douglass, the runaway slave. But we've got Sam Nelson, a runaway slave, right here, 150 yards from here, lived here, died here. They need to be taught that story. Fourth grade is a great place to do that.
The other guy we need to celebrate in the district is Dr. School.
Of course.
I'm hoping that the board goes with us in terms of the renaming. If this becomes the Turner Educational Complex, this should be an annual event where all the schools participate and make presentation of African American history, so it becomes the Schomburg of Westchester County. That's the idea.
Thank you very much. Anytime I listen to the history of African American, I cry. I cry, through my heart for whatever our grandfathers gone through, and unjustly, and no one has stood up except us to fight this injustice. And today I cried again, to my heart, and practically throughout, listening to you, Dr. Sproul, and to this gentleman who graduated from Mount Vernon High School, showing that we do in fact graduate very intelligent, very capable students. I second Trustee McDowell's suggestion to take this to the community, to the library, to the other side, because we always talk about two sides in Mount Vernon, and it is still current. We do have two sides, even in the mentalities, in the way that people think. And we do need to bring this to that, wherever, and have people listen. And when they listen to you, I think they would understand really what's at stake for our children. And our children need to understand too. And for that to happen, I think, and I suggest that we have a week dedicated to Mount Vernon history. An educational week, a week of Mount Vernon history, where your books, will be highlighted, where students will read these books and make comments and write projects about it, about these figures, these squatters, codes, whoever they were, they know about them, so they be proud of themselves, of the history of our population, of our people. So thank you. Trustee Woodside is the one to really thank, because he's the one, once he became president, who told me we need to have conferences on this. And he had asked me by text message and email something that I had not responded to because I did not really know how to approach it. But I will speak to you about it. And this is something that's very, very current.
Talk about it.
That we need to really speak out, and that's the Ebola disease, which is devastating some of the African countries, and now it's like African Americans are being stigmatized. Believe me, it's not just African who are being stigmatized, it's all of us, in a way that, because we've become one. We've become one, and we travel, and in any way, these needs to be addressed, because around the country, you hear already, when they don't talk about countries, West Africa. West Africa is more than 17, 20 countries. 17, 20, and I can talk to you about my own country. For instance, we had one case, and of a student who traveled from Guinea to Senegal, because he was hoping, he knew of Senegal, even though we're poor, but we still have better health, sanitary, and we were able to cure him and send him back. And right now, the World Organization declares Senegal free of Ebola. Now, we're proud of it, but we know our neighboring countries are suffering, and we are all suffering because of it. And however, the way it is being portrayed in this country and in the media, it's like everybody had disease already. And it's like nobody can do anything about it. When a small country has been able, to really do something about it. So, and we have these issues that we have to educate the communities. You hear about Staten Island students and the people from Liberia, being as if they all suffer from Ebola. That's how they're being treated right now, and they have to stand up and organize themselves. And I can tell you about a lot of African businesses seeing that effect already. So believe me, what you speak of, and when we talk about history, things being repeated in a way, in the way that it's being portrayed in the media and being, somehow it's the same tactics that you hear some of these congressmen from the South. They're the first one who always stand up and say, let's do this radical thing. So, Trustee Kusai, thank you for bringing this. You have our support, you have my support in Trustee McDowell, and we'll make this change. We'll go ahead and we're probably going to convince the others, talk to them about it. They already support the idea. Because really this is somebody from Mount Vernon who suffered great injustice, and he needs to be recognized. And thank you again.
I wanted to ask Mr. Clark if you had any last words. And then
I'm sorry. I'm Trustee Nying, and I'm the Vice President of the Mount Vernon Board of Education.
Dr. Nying.
I have a question for you. At the board meeting, when communications open to the public, are we talking about renaming the schools after the Turners, or are we talking about the educational? What are we?
Well, we are in the process of restructuring the school district.
You're right.
We have a number of different K-8 models.
Right.
There's a K-8 at Graham School, there's a K-8 at Pennington, and then the vision between the two buildings here, Longfellow and Longfellow, is to have a K-8 model between the two of them. If you've been to Longfellow Elementary School lately, Jamal Doggett has done an incredible job. The last time he reported to the board on behavioral incidents was 0. Okay, he's got something to show the rest of the school in terms of his skill as an expert with our young people. And if we could figure out how to, I'm an attorney, right? I used to get all my business at New Rochelle Family Court in the juvenile delinquency area on 3rd and Sanford Boulevard as they were coming out of the middle school. And then I lost all that income because he went over to the middle school and became assistant principal. And then the staff started walking the street because this is their neighborhood. This is Mr. Doggett's neighborhood. He wasn't going to have this stuff going on in his area. He screwed up my revenue center, but it was a wonderful outcome because it was an experience of a expert who knows what he's doing. And that's what we need to do here, is there's a history to Mount Vernon that gets forgotten. What I'm hoping for, and I'm looking at you, and I know you're an expert with lots of years of service to this community as well. And I know, and I'm just thinking, looking at you and thinking, Dr. Sproul is writing a cookbook. And I'm saying, when we dedicate this building, and he's our keynote, maybe we could figure out who could work on that cookbook so everybody could have some. Yeah, but we need a cook. We need a chef. So I'm just looking at you. I'm not volunteering you for anything.
I retired 28 years as a cook from Mount Vernon High School.
I'm not volunteering you for
I'm not
anything. But if you could take a look at that cookbook and tell us what you could do to help us out. Okay.
You didn't answer that question.
What was the question?
Let her repeat her question.
I'm sorry.
No, I was wondering when it's open communications from the public, okay, we're talking about renaming the schools after the Turners.
Yes.
We're talking about the educational part.
We're talking about, well, there's two parts to the proposal. One was Dr. School's proposal
Right,
in the book. The other one is my proposal, not knowing this existed until he sent it to me for this day, is my proposal to the board is to rename this entire piece of property, and then one building for Rebecca and one building for Benjamin. Okay, so that's what I need you to testify about. That's the proposal to Dr. Ning and Mr. McDowell and the other trustees. But it would be really nice to have 20 people come to say something about it, because then they'll have a reason to help us out. Okay?
And to remind people that you call a board and you have with the computer, you gotta, get the number for the clerk's office so your name can be on the ticket.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, and if you want a copy of the treatise that Dr. School sent, or the material, the article from the Atlantic Monthly that Mr. Clark was referencing, if you go to our website and you look up the October 18th President's Conference, it's attached to that. You can actually print it out or download it to your computer.
All right.
Ms. Ward?
No, I can wait, go ahead. All right, I want to piggyback on what Dolores's question is, because if we just ask for the renaming of the schools, then we would have to come back and ask for the Educational Institute component. So,
No, were you talking about Educational Institute or the street name?
When we get up there and speak, it's two parts. Are we focused on the renaming of the school or the educational part?
You know what, come with all of it. Come with all of it, because the superintendent is trying to figure out what restructuring meant to us last year. And as much input as he has from this community, the more he will understand what it is we want.
but could we have everyone's email so that we can write it for them? Because it's still fuzzy.
You know what? It's going to be fuzzy until it becomes a proposal. I have no problem with, you know what, you're right, we need everybody's email, but everybody heard what they heard. And what you have to say is what I want to hear. When I asked Mr. Clark to speak today, I didn't ask him what he was going to say. Okay? And I didn't ask Dr. Sproul what he was going to say, because I knew whatever they had to say, we needed to hear.
That book for sale.
Gonna have to ask Dr. Sproul.
I'd like to say something.
Yes.
Peace, everybody. Peace, family. I am LaVon Hunter. I'm an educator in the Bronx. I've been in Mount Vernon since she was born. This is my daughter, whenever she's 8, and I'm thinking about speaking with you at the end of the day or when you have some time, because maybe we can take her from where she is and bring her home, because right now she goes to school in the Bronx. But I'm going to speak, I am compelled to speak today on behalf of educators. It's my 11th year, and I have to say, in the truest sense of who teachers are, and teachers have always been, you guys have been my teachers today. You have shared your riches of what you know. You have shared the history of Mount Vernon, which I didn't know. But you also, great teachers also help others to see the riches in themselves. So I would like to extend the challenge from the trustee to what we need to see our students and our young people do, which is for them to take the material from the expert, right? The material that's already been given, that's going to be given through the teachers, through the curriculum, and put it in the hands and minds and hearts of the students, and have them be the presenters. So at some point in this entire legacy building effort, right, the students become the ones who stand up and give the community the knowledge, because that's how they develop their riches as children. That's what I do where I teach. That's the only thing that gets students to change their identity of where they fit in the world, right? I get to sit down after the training and show them that they have the spirit and the power of teaching. So whatever I can do to contribute in my time accounts to you or whatever's going on at Longfellow, I am here. I'm so blessed to be here with you guys today. And I'm looking forward to not just talking, but doing something about the power of being together. Thanks for listening.
I'm looking forward to the next time we meet, after we approve the resolution, that the date we call, and Mr. Diga is telling me it's got to be a while because he needs time to put it together with the assignment. When I have the date, you will get the date. We need to fill this room.
Yes.
Yes.
And we need to fill this room every year.
Yes.
And we have 16 buildings here, and we have 10 elementary schools and 3 high schools and 2 middle schools and a bunch of other places where the 8th grades are going to end up. Everybody, this is a beautiful space that should become the right place to have this
Yes.
conversation.
Yes.
But you're going to say something?
You know, Dr. Sproul, you know, that's what we like family, you know, and I appreciate, you know,